And today's work is based on Newton's law of motion. I'm going to review some material with you and set you a task, an experimental task. Then we'll look at the rubric and you will attempt to do a write-up of your experiment. So what is the basic foundation of what we're doing? Well, we're exploring, or we're using Newton's laws of motion to analyze something that's moving through a fluid. A fluid includes liquids and gases. So when we say that something is dropping through the air, we say it's moving through a fluid. Now, how do Newton's laws apply to situations where there's air resistance? Now, the first of Newton's laws are, this is the third law. I don't know why I'm starting with the third one, but here it is. Newton's third law is every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Newton's second law, no, this is the first one. Newton's first law is an object in motion will continue moving along a straight line with a constant speed until an unbalanced force acts on it. So this is a really interesting one because this tells you when and where something will accelerate or not. And as you can see from here, it will not accelerate if the forces are balanced. That's really important to this piece of work. If we go on to Newton's second law, if I can find it, wherever I put the second law, here it is. Newton's second law concentrates on situations where there is definitely a resultant force. And it tells you that the net force on a body is proportional to the acceleration. So once you know what the net force is, you can find the acceleration. And acceleration happens only when there is a resultant force. Now, your task is to look at what happens to an object in terms of the forces acting on it when it falls through the air. Here is your task. The research question is as follows. How does the mass of a paper cupcake holder affect its average speed? So you're going to use cupcake holders, little fluffy, lightweight paper cups. And if we don't have any, you can make them. You can just make paper cones. That will do. How does the mass affect its average speed? Now you will be given a set of 15 cupcake holders, or you'll have to make 15 little cones, stopwatch or a mobile phone you can use to time, a meter ruler or a tape measure, and a stairwell or similar so that objects can fall through quite a large height. What to do? First, start with some predictions. Start with some preliminary observations. That means drop a cupcake holder and have a look at what happens. Think about acceleration and steady speed. Now, fit a second cupcake holder into the first and repeat the drop. You've doubled the mass. What happens now? Can you detect a pattern? Now, you have a choice at this stage. You either really go to town and think through your prediction, right? Or you have a guess and then come back to it a little bit later when you start collecting your data. But what I want you to do in your prediction is to have an attempt, either by using what you know or doing some preliminary work, which I strongly recommend. Think about hypotheses considering the mass of the object. What happens when the mass increases? What happens to its acceleration? How long does it take to reach the ground? Whether or not it actually reaches a steady speed. And think about Newton's first and second law. Okay? Your prediction must contain the following. How does mass of the paper cupcake holders affect the average speed? Whether you really go to town on your research or not, you must answer that question before you start doing the experiment. How do you start? What do you start with? First, carry out the following activities. 1. Answer these questions. 2. Go back to the presentation and watch this video. Let me show you. This video. This one will give you something to think about in terms of the forces. When you've done those two things, write a hypothesis and then start gathering your materials. Have some fun with it. Let me show you quickly the rubric. The only section that I'm really considering, or I'm going to grade, are the exploration and evaluation. right? So your exploration involves this section of the syllabus, that you identify the topic clearly, that your background information is appropriate, that your method is highly appropriate, and your awareness of safety. Those 4 things are really important. And then secondly, I'm interested in your conclusion and evaluation. Okay, so have a look at the rubric as well, and I look forward to reading your work.